The Business Owners Podcast is brought to you by Business, Business, Business and Enever Group with your hosts, Linda Reed-Enever and Clive Enever. In each episode, we talk to other business owners about their experiences, challenges and successes. We'll also share tips and advice on how to grow your business and achieve your goals. If you're a business owner or you're thinking about starting a business, then the Business Owners Podcast is for you.
Hi everyone, I'm Linda Reed-Enever and welcome back to the Business Owners Podcast. I am excited to be back in the seat again. It feels like Clive's doing more of these than I am these days, which is great because you're getting to know him as well. Along with Clive Enever, I am your host for the podcast. The Business Owners Podcast is brought to you by Business, Business, Business and Enever Group, and it is designed to have real conversations with real business owners just like you as we dive into the world of business and what it's like. And Caitlin and I were talking before we jumped on air today, because Caitlin's our guest. Welcome, Caitlin.
Thank you.
And we were talking about what it is like for women. What is the difference in women in business? Now, I've always stood and say the best thing I can do for my daughter is teach her to stand in a man's world. But that doesn't mean that there's no differences when it comes to how we run money, we run finance, and we run all of those sorts of things. So I'm going to let Caitlin introduce herself, and then we can go on this topic and watch us go on multiple tangents today, guys.
Thank you so much, Linda. I'm so excited to be here. I'm Caitlin. I have founded 2 businesses in the last 6 months. Slightly insane, but hey, based on 22 years across 5 industries in terms of my work experience. So mostly spanning sales, real estate, all the way through to recruitment. And I decided to do things differently. And along the way, I decided to write a book because I was sick of being told what to do with money as a woman by people who didn't understand or fully represent things like unpaid care, super gap, all of the things, career interruptions, all of the things that our lives actually hold and carry. So that's why I started writing a book. It turned into a big thing. I'm loving the write of it. And essentially it contains the story of 14 real women, from First Nations businesswoman, the first person in her family to actually run and found a business, all the way through to my friend Kazzy, who grew up in housing commission and used to pound macadamias in the backyard to supplement her diet because they didn't get enough food, and what her earning trajectory looked like. So it's a real examination into real lived experiences, and it launches on the 30th of June. And that's been consuming my life for the last year or so.
So guys, the podcast will be out by this time, so that will be even more exciting. You'll be able to jump in and grab a copy of the book, and we'll pop a link in with the show notes so that everyone can find Caitlin's book, because you'll be able to go purchase it at the end of listening to the conversation that we have today. And I want everyone to do that. And Caitlin, don't feel nuts and insane. We have 5 businesses here. We've done it multiple times.
Company.
I've done the book journey twice. So
Isn't it a thing? It's a real labour. It is a labour.
It is. And I don't think that people... Like they go, oh yeah, write a book and it's an authority piece, which it absolutely is, but it's pouring out of your heart and your stories and your journey and all of those sorts of things. So yeah, I understand it completely. Okay, I know what this is because I started our business, and I started in our business, like leaving the corporate world as my daughter born. So we talk about unpaid super, we talk about negotiating those worlds of no paid. We had baby bonus. That was about what we had. Why the business was establishing. And I'll be really honest, we sat down and we spoke with our accountant, and one of the smartest things for me to do was take parenting payment and not take a salary from the business. For that period of time, I wasn't earning any super. No. I was not earning anything in that space. Now I talk about this being my makeup years. The fact that why things are going well, I'm depositing madly into super and doing all the stuff that I need to do.
Absolutely.
And I know we've got listeners out there, men and women in lots of ways, that are doing that makeup year or doing that makeup component. So what has been the thing that you've found with women or men in business in this process where they've come through and they've realized they don't have the funds or they don't have the super?
I think it's a reckoning. There's a real time of reckoning. And like you, I took paid parenting leave, and it was just before they brought in superannuation on parenting leave. So that kicks in, which is fantastic. I think that's just absolute progress.
Right.
But even that in itself, like that's based on minimum wage. So if you're earning more than minimum wage, you're still going to have to top up your super, which a lot of women don't realise. I think there does come a day of reckoning where you sit down and you go, okay, the system says I should be here by now and I'm not. But then having a clear-eyed view on, okay, why is that? Is that because of just me personally, or is there more systemic sort of influences? And when we look at spreadsheets, they're not the problem. Women aren't bad with money. Our financial and economic system was not just poorly designed for us, it was actually designed to exclude us. And that's not to say that our system particularly benefits anyone terribly well, but it's just to say when it comes to women historically, there is a reason for the care gap, the super gap, and that unpaid labour. So I think the day of reckoning really sits down where you go, okay, this is where I am. This is what I can do to bridge that gap somewhat, but also to be able to say, listen, it's not particularly fair, but I love what you're doing as well, which is, okay, I'm in my absolute window of I can make up, absolutely sacrifice more now. I can divert funds here. I can shift things here. What can I do right now for my future self?
100%. So the next thing that I thought, we've both worked in recruitment. Like I used to work for Drake, you've worked in recruitment, we've both worked in recruitment. We've all seen those salary papers.
Yes.
Came through with the average salary for females is this, the average salary for males is that. Yes. And I was thinking about it as we were talking in the podcast here. I'm going, you know what? My daughter's currently working for McDonald's right now, and there is no average salary for males or females. And I'm sitting there going, isn't that progression? You guys have made something. But you are a person, and this is the rate you earn if you are this person.
Yes.
And I think that if I look at that in my 47 years, to say that we've actually come that far is great. But why do we have to? This is the big thing that gets me.
Yes.
Why do we have to? We've both done the recruitment thing, and we've most probably done the offer that actually disadvantaged a female or a woman in her role because we had to.
Absolutely. It's very interesting as well, coming down to women get coached a lot. You need to have more self-confidence. You need to do this. You need to do that. There's workshops for us on everything. And it's really interesting because those workshops assume that the problem is the female, is the woman, that the problem exists within her, that she just needs to have more confidence. She just needs to do these actions. She needs to bridge the gap. And when we actually look at the rooms that are designed for women, they are not designed for women to access them. So in the book, I actually talk about the likability sort of trap, and that's where women are conditioned to perform likability in order to access and get accepted into these rooms that weren't built for her. But then the penalty is she doesn't earn as much and she's not taken as seriously and she doesn't have the same career progression because, she's just too nice, she's too self-effacing, she's too this. And again, it gets put back on her. But if we look at financial trauma responses, we've all heard about fight, flight, and there's also financial fawning, where it's branded a unique women problem, but it's actually a result of social conditioning where we're taught to be nice. It's also called the tend and befriend, and women are more prone to that because in business, in life, in relationships, because we've been taught to be nice, share, take care of everyone else, put yourself last, and it really disadvantages us when it comes to discussions on our wage. And it's still absolutely happening, and there is definite progression, which is really heartening to see, but we're still talking about it because it's still a problem. One of my good friends is a COO, and she's of an organisation in Victoria. There's a 23% wage gap between herself and the other executive directors who are all men. And she's been talking about it for 6 months, trying to actually even that gap. And if you look at her qualifications, her experience, it actually outweighs a lot of that. So I think that's why we still have to talk about it, because it is an issue. And that likability trap, it works against us because we do it to try and get into the rooms, and then we're penalised for it because we don't get paid as much.
So I'm going to talk about this from a business point of view too, because when I first started out, the lines that, aren't you lucky your husband lets you have your business, used to drive batty. And I'm like, excuse me?
Disgusting.
And it was actually the opposite, because when Clive went out on his own and started consulting, I was still working. So I was like, hang on, isn't he lucky that I was the breadwinner for
I'm
that?
subsidizing this right now. Wow.
Why we worked through that incompatible phase. And it's really interesting because people will quite often, I stand my ground on my rates. I will sit there and go, I know what I am. I know what I'm worth. If you don't want to work with me, that's absolutely fine. Move on. But it took me a long time to do that. And it actually took me my last corporate role to actually realize that I didn't want to play the game anymore.
Yes.
So I was like,
exhausting.
cool, this is what I'm worth. This is what I am. You don't like me? Great. You don't like me? I really don't care. I come to
Yes.
work and I leave. I report to someone. They've got to like me. The rest of you don't have to like me.
The freedom.
And the absolute freedom of that. And then when I came into business, the same thing. And I did. I went back into people pleasing. I went back into making sure that I made up for my industry or the people who did the wrong things in my industry.
Yep.
And this podcast is a result
Yes.
of me not caring. Okay, so the story of business, in case you don't know it, the group came about because I was at my niece's wedding and I was watching all the other Facebook groups. We've been doing this for 12 years, so it's not like new. We were watching all the other Facebook groups out there for a while and they were all going, and they were like starting to get annoyed at the people who were helping. Okay, fine, that's it. I'm going to make a group over here for my business mates and me to hang out with, and we can do our own business world over here.
Oh my gosh.
And so
you built your own room.
Everything we did has come, come today. So it's come to the room that you and I sit in today.
I love this.
To me,
This is great.
But as business owners in women, we've got to stop.
Yeah.
We have to stop accepting less or accepting rates or, you've got the kids to run and look after and that sort of stuff. If I have one more question about who's looking after my daughter when she was in primary school.
Men don't get asked that question. Men never get asked that question.
He's a fully functioning human. I reckon he can manage it.
Maybe. It's so interesting. The actual results on, say, a P&L, you don't see the results of performing likability because that's lost profit, but it's not a concrete amount. But when we look at discounting to stay liked, over-delivering and absorbing scope creep, unbilled, that's huge. That's huge.
I let myself do it time and time again.
Because we're like, we'll just do that. I just want to do a good job. We'll just, no. Will it show up on a P&L? No. Is this actually dollar productive?
I'm going to really say it does. Because it shows up on a P&L as negative.
Yes.
And I'm in a situation where we are over and delivering at the moment and I will do this project at a loss.
Yes.
And why? Why am I doing it at a loss?
Yep.
And this is the question we've got to ask people where we are. And there's a couple of things I broke and I'll tell everyone what I broke because you need to learn it. Because if you don't learn it and you don't hear it from someone who's done it and knows that she shouldn't have, I broke my rules.
Yeah.
I got too emotionally invested in the project.
Yep.
Okay. So I wanted to see the project succeed rather than look at it from don't try and always keep that distance between you and the project.
Yeah.
And the other thing that I did was the client needed and they really acted as if they needed things urgently from us. And I fell into that urgent trap. Rather than this is my team's availability, this is when we can split the work. And I'm really good at doing that.
Yes.
And I will tell you guys that once every 1 to 2 years, I will let someone slip through underneath the cracks as a project and they'll do that to us.
Yep.
Does it mean I'm an imperfect business owner? Yes. Does it mean I'm a bad business owner? No. I've just got to relearn that lesson.
Yes.
But don't bash yourselves up if you are talking to us today and feel like you're in any of these positions. Mm-hmm. So, Caitlin, what was the moment in time where you decided, because you said to me you decided you'd had enough. I'm keen to know when your moment was you had enough.
I think in business, it was when I was working theoretically part-time after the birth of my daughter, who's 18 months old. And I'd just gone back to work. She was 6 months old. And it was an expectation that you were in the office these days. There was no work from home. And I was working part-time, but actually delivering 2 times full-time results. So I was the top biller, absolutely smashing it. The results and the outcomes were there. And when I actually went and wanted more flexibility and just said, listen, I can't get more daycares for these days, it was very much put back on me that, no, this is how we do things here. And I'm like, why? Why? Justify some rent for you? Is this to just culturally? I know I can do my best work remotely. I'm used to doing that. I think if the outcomes are there and you're feeling like you have to change or contort in order to fit in, there's an issue. So after that, I actually went into a different type of recruitment. So construction recruitment, very male dominated, but I actually found that emotionally easier. because you know what? You could just show up and you're straight, you're direct, and you get respected for it. It's a very different dynamic. And I thought, gosh, I love this. In fact, I'm doing all of this for someone else. Why don't I do this for me and design my own room, design what I want in a company? And that's really where it was born. And to be honest, I wasn't brave for a very long time. I kept on justifying to myself why I couldn't make that leap. I kept on saying, oh, when the baby's a bit older or when I have more savings behind me. And I just was like, Caitlin, who are you kidding? You're scared, but you're going to do it anyway. And I think that's the biggest thing, right? We're all going to be scared. Everyone looks like they have it all together on the surface. Underneath, we're little duck legs paddling away frantically. But just back yourself. You're never going to feel ready. That's my biggest, as a recovering perfectionist. You're never going to feel ready. Just do it anyway.
I was in a room of women last week, and there was some women there who were in that part-time mode moving out. Now, I was lucky enough when we started the first business, which was me doing a little bit of consulting in the consulting firm, but also starting a family publication. But I went through an IVF journey, so I had time to prepare for me to step out of corporate world into business. And my last 2 years of working were taking 6-month contracts here and there, going, I'm trying to get pregnant. If I'm pregnant, I'm out. See you guys.
Good planning.
That was my whole plan, was I was just taking short-term contracts, doing those sorts of things.
Yep.
The really interesting thing you said about the male-dominated field is I've worked in both female-dominated recruitment and male-dominated recruitment. Give me construction and labour hire any day of the week, because the boys are straight. They can tell you exactly what you need, and there's never anything undecided.
And it's interesting because I can sit here and say that, but I also know it's down to, again, social conditioning. Men are allowed to be direct. They're allowed to negotiate. So it's really interesting stepping into that field, because then it's, why aren't women... the difference is there, but it's not down to a gender difference. It's down to the way we've been socially conditioned.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's the one thing that we talk about. We're really talking today, guys, about building your own room. That Caitlin's mentioned it multiple times. When you build a business or you build a space or you do something, we build our own room. And in the process, and most of you who are listening now will have seen that we'll have done our first couple of Learn, Connect, Network, do in-person networking events. And that is building our own room to network. And I love to get out there with other people. I also just want a bit of structure around this baby so that everyone benefits. But back to my point, because sorry, guys, I've tangented. I told you we were going to podcast. Back to my point. I was in a room with women who were thinking about leaving, and they know that they're worth more.
Yes.
But that step out of that corporate world into, or that part-time job or into the paid work is very confronting. And I'll give you that. It's 100% confronting.
It's stepping off a cliff. It really is.
Yeah, it is. And it's the same, guys, when you've got a client that's maybe paying you a huge amount, or you've got a project that's a huge amount of dollars. Stepping away from that can be really over-confronting. The one thing I've learned in my career, as soon as I've done it, as soon as I've ripped the Band-Aid off multiple times, and in business, the doors have opened up for everything else around me.
Yes.
And then normally, the last time I really had to do this in business, I took a rather large client. Financially, it was stupid to say no. Okay. But I said no. Then we ended the contract, and then we ended up in the next 30 days getting 3 times that business. Which I had no idea when I was saying no where that was coming from.
And that's so values-based, isn't it? To be able to say no. You represent safety, you represent all of these things, but I'm actively saying no because I believe in something different, and I believe in something more aligned for me. Just that whole pivot and the way you were then rewarded for that and found your own tribe and aligned with the right clients is so interesting.
And when you're talking about it today, 2 businesses, but that's because you found the zone. You know where the zone is now for you. You know how things are going to work.
Absolutely. It's pattern recognition. Yeah. You look back on your career and you go, okay, this is what I'm good at. This is the gaps where I struggle. Yeah. This is the way I work best. And I'm actually going to design this around me and around my life. And it's terrifying to do that because for me, I've got an 18-month-old and it's really important to me to get time with her. That's also something I don't want to compromise on. And I think that's been a really deliberate choice. And it comes back to those values where I could be in corporate and I could be commuting in every day and I could be earning that money and not seeing her as much as I want to right now. And, you know, I had her quite late. She's my pride. I'm like, I'm not going to have another one. She's it. And I just go, okay, why can't we design spaces around us so that our values can be supported and we can actually lead from a values, not from fear and not from scarcity. And I think that it's really interesting. If the rooms that you're in reward that sort of likability, then you need to redesign the room, both as a business owner personally, but also for your team. Really huge. Otherwise, coaching's just surface level behavioral change. It's not that deep systemic transformation. And women need to be safe and supported first. And that really comes back to what I say in my book. I've actually got a section first that says, hey, if you're in active danger, if your nervous system is just going constantly, if you're not physically or emotionally safe right now, don't read this book. It's not like you need to actually come, here's some resources, here's some helplines to call, because women need to be safe first in order to grow. And they can't grow in an environment that extracts and then penalizes them for likability. So I think that's the biggest thing. Let's operate from safety, from actually designing safe rooms, because then you've got that exponential growth because it's values aligned and it's not scarcity.
Caitlin, if we were going to design our room, what are the things that we need to have in it?
I think the first one is acknowledgement of what women carry before we even step into work. So globally, we're doing 2.5 times the unpaid work that men do. And how does that affect actually our margin, our personal margin? So if we're walking in and we've already done 3 hours of unpaid labour and now we're going into work to do another 8 hours, then we'll go home and do another 4 hours. Like, let's actually look at the acknowledgement of that first. And I think once you acknowledge that, everything changes. It's not a personal issue anymore. It's okay, we have limited energy and time as women. So how do we leverage that? How do we invest that? How do we maximize ROI on our energy? And I think then that education of ourselves into what's highly leveraged dollar productive time look like versus what is what I call the red zone, that administration, low value tasks that deplete us, and typically that women have only really been allowed to do. It's only in the last sort of 20, 30 years that we have been able to access the rooms where previous to that we were the typists.
Yep.
So how do we get out of there and actually go, nope, I need to leverage my time. It is valuable. It is a finite resource. I have less of it than men do typically because I have children or I have parents that need looking after, or I'm the emotional caretaker of my family, whatever that looks like, and actually then valuing our time and energy. And I think that's the biggest thing. So acknowledgement of what we carry first, and then a really good hard look at our time and our energy.
I put spaghetti bolognese in the slow cooker before I came on to interview Caitlin this morning at 8:30.
That is genius, by the way.
But that is still 45 minutes of prepping all the stuff to go in the slow cooker before I come here to the podcast, before we go into, and guys, if you hear my day today, you would think it's insane. I'm going to go in and run membership sessions, then take my 17-year-old to her youth council thing for the end of the day. So I'll walk back through the door for dinner at about 7:30 tonight. So I need to do that. But it is almost part of the unseen labour component.
100%. Even the mental load of carrying everything in your head, putting everything in the diary, and just the awareness of when things happen when. Even if my daughter's not with me, I'll always be going, oh, okay, it's 11 o'clock, it's nearly her lunchtime. I wonder if she's eaten. Or, oh, okay, it's such and such. I wonder if I'm going to have to put dinner on. That layer humming in the background, that's where that takes a lot of our mental, cognitive, emotional energy.
So for those of you who work with me, you'll know that I always talk about having different days of the week that you do things. Because if you can have different days of the week that you can do things, this will help you design, hopefully, a room that will work for you. So I have an admin day, which is normally the Monday, which is where I'm available to the team, and it's got a little bit of flexibility in it. I've got training days like today where I run membership training and those sorts of things, but I don't tend to do a lot of client work at that stage because it's commenting and having podcasts and having conversations with people like Caitlin that we could jump in and do. Wednesdays is what I call my workshop days, so normally where I'm running workshops for other people, but it can also fall into ad hoc consulting and ad hoc time. Thursdays, I have all what we call our retainer clients. So all our retainer clients sit in a Thursday. If they can't fit in a Thursday, they don't tend to be a retainer client because we alternate them out fortnightly. They sit out.
Yep.
Someone's got a fortnightly shot. Next one's got a fortnightly spot. Friday is what I call my day. Yes. Friday is whatever the hell I want to do day. So if I've opened it up for consulting, that is my choice. If I decide to run a workshop, that is my choice. If I decide that's the day that I'm getting out of here and going to the day spa, that is my choice.
Absolutely.
Because running a Facebook group means that I am also on over the weekend. I'm watching the clients here. I'm watching the clients' areas. I'm on over the weekend when I don't have to be, but I am.
Yes.
And that's the reality of work. So as you design your rooms, and I keep saying that CEO day, that Friday of whatever you need to do for you and the business is extremely important. And if you can't get it at the start, at least get like every week, get it once a month.
Yes. Yeah.
That you have a CEO day, that the CEO is allowed to take care of themselves. Male or female, guys, everyone needs a CEO day.
It's so true. And it's very foundational to health. If we look at burnout, that's a huge liability on your P&L. And that's actually shows up late because it's normally a lagging thing and then it's catastrophic. So it's actually around how do we put in that infrastructure early to catch you before you burn out, because it's not all rainbow and sunbeams. You know, you're trying to fit in so much into your life. You're instantly accessible for your team, for your clients. You have responsibilities. You can't switch off. You can never switch off. I've got social media as well as part of She's Giving Wealth, the book, and you've got to reply to those comments. You've got to screen those comments out. You've got to be doing the posting. So you're in creative mode, you're in client mode, and it's actually quite exhausting transitioning between them. And so for me, I look at what's called return on energy. We all talk about return on investment, but return on energy, super important. So where are we putting our energy to yield us an actual outcome in whatever area of life, relationships, work, but also what are we putting back in? And for me, really good quality supplements have been an absolute lifesaver, like magnesium. There's certain things in my week that I do not skimp on, and that's supplements, like a daily walk. And those Fridays when you feel exhausted to your bone marrow and you're just dragging yourself through, white knuckling it through, having that CEO day where you go, what's my energy like? What's my ROE right now? Okay, I need to fill the tank a bit. It's really smart business sense. It's not self-indulgence.
Exactly. And I think that we need to take that veil away, that busy is not productive. Both you and I have spoken about being able to do part-time work at the same workload as a full-time employee. And for a long time there, that was a badge of honor.
I know.
And I wore it as a badge of honor. And I'm sure you did too.
Oh, I did. I did.
We're like, look at us, we can do this, we can do that.
Yes.
But the problem is that's not a badge of honor. That is just a recipe for burnout.
100%.
It's 100% a recipe for burnout. So while as females in our industry, we need to stand our ground and we need to stand up with everyone in the process, we don't need to burn ourselves out to achieve.
No. And typically women work twice as hard to be even half as seen. So once you actually realize that and stop yourself, you just go, whoa, this is overinvestment. This is needless overinvestment. I know what I need to do, and I'm actually going to treat my time and treat my energy and leverage them. I think that just transforms. The guilt leaves.
Yep.
The guilt goes because you just go, nope, that doesn't fit my energy resources this week. Or nope, that's not a measurable outcome that's dollar generative for me right now in the future. That's not an investment. That's just a disposal.
Yep. And that's a huge thing. Okay, so coming out to the energy conversations and all of that, we'll wrap up our podcast today with the most important question: tea, coffee, or something else for you?
Coffee. Coffee. Yeah, coffee and a red wine at the end of the day. One to get going, one to wind down.
For everyone who listens to me and doesn't believe that marketing and recruitment are run on the same areas, I'm telling you guys, we run on coffee or we run on red wine. That's the two things we run on.
Yes.
Beautiful. What's the best book that you've read recently that you can't put down or you keep coming back to?
Oh, I haven't read a book cover to cover in a
That's unfair
while.
to
I'm going to
ask
be
for.
honest. Yeah. Oh, I could say my book. I've read that book a million times.
It's really unfair to ask someone what book are
I'm
you
so
reading while you're in the middle of editing your own manuscript. It's like horrible.
Really far out. I haven't read anything else for a while, and then I go, "That's okay," because it comes out, and then I can read other
And then you can read
things.
again. Yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
It is very much like that. And then people go, how's the launch? How's everything going? Yeah, cool, breathing.
Yes. And again, it's been a really challenging month and it's been great because I've had to implement what you and I are talking about. So I've actually stripped back so much. I've just really been very careful about architecting my month and going, okay, I don't want to get to launch day, white knuckling it, exhausted, dragging myself across the finishing line. That's not what this book is about. Those aren't my values. How do I actually prevent that? So I worked backwards to plan my month so I had capacity. And that was really important. So the art world is not typically a space that women have been able to access either. So if you look at paintings, for example, the highest selling painting was by Leonardo da Vinci, $450 million in 2017. And then the highest selling piece by a female was Frida Kahlo, and it was like 57.7 mil. So there's a huge discrepancy even there. Men's time is valued in art and women's isn't. So what I've actually done for launch is really redesigned a room. I've hired an art gallery. I've commissioned Nicole Shafter of Your Art by Nicole, great artist, to paint portraits of every woman in the book, all 14 of them. We're going to put them in the gallery on launch night. And it's the end of financial year, which is a calendar women typically aren't allowed to access, in an art gallery, which is typically not a space women can access. And we're hanging these ordinary, and I say this in parentheses, women, they are the subject on launch night. It's all about them. So I think that's actually, for me, when we're talking about designing rooms, it's a real subversion to do that, and it feels really good.
And bringing the right people into the room again. So that's 100%. Okay. So we are going through this conversation. I would like to leave everyone today with the point of view of we need to design our own rooms. We need to make sure that we are looking after ourselves, and we need to make sure that we are creating. Caitlin and I have daughters, and we need to create a generation where they can walk into the world. It was my motivation behind what I did when I started, and I'm fairly certain it's looking to be Caitlin's motivation behind what she's doing right now.
100%.
What is the one piece of advice that you've been given that has stuck with you throughout your career or throughout your journey? The one that you keep coming back to?
I know I've said it so many times, but value your energy. I had a great boss, Jory from H People. He's fantastic. And he really coached me around, if you don't have these things in place, you don't have the respect of the customer. And if it's a customer that just won't respect you, don't invest your time. Walk away. Split the deal. Just cut it off. Go. Recalibrate fast and find your people like you did with your clients. It's that real, nope, I'm going to cut this energy off. There is not alignment. I'm not valued here despite what I clearly am bringing to the table. I'm actually going to go find those people that understand what I'm bringing to the table, value it, and reciprocate.
Beautiful. Caitlin, how do our people find you? How do they work with you? All of that, because I'm sure after today there's people going, yeah, I'm going to be talking to this lady.
Thank you. I've got a website, Hamewith, Hamewith. It means homewoods in Old Scots. It's around designing rooms that everyone can actually bring their best selves to work, and the revenue can respond accordingly. And then She's Giving Wealth, the book, it's got its own website, and I'm on socials as well.
Fantastic. I will be definitely checking this book out. I want to have a read.
I'll send you a copy.
Okay, love that. I'll return the favor and send you a copy of the marketing tree method.
Yes, I'd actually love that. I'll be able to read someone else's book and it'll be
beautiful, guys. This has been another episode of the Business Owners Podcast. As with normal with me, we are having real conversations with real people. You need to be checking out Caitlin and her book. And I'm going to say, regardless of whether you are a male or a female, understanding the stories and understanding the differences in business. I would love to say that in 5 years' time, we are no longer talking about male minimum wage, female minimum wage, anything like that, minimum salaries and all of that sort of stuff. I'd like to say that my daughter can go into a workforce where she says, I've learnt these skills from running a podcast for mum. I've worked with this, I've done that. This is the thing I build, and this is what I'm worth. And not have to fight.
Yes.
in the next 5 to 6 years.
Oh, and my dream is that my daughter won't even have to read my book.
Exactly. Wouldn't that
Won't
be
that be
amazing?
great? She won't
That
need
would be amazing. We will make ourselves redundant because we don't need to be.
We're here for it.
100%. Thank you once again for listening to the Business Owners Podcast. I'm Linda Reed-Enever, Ideas, Impact and Marketing Strategist, and along with Clive Enever, I am your host for this podcast. Go check out Caitlin's information, her resources, her socials. I'm sure you're going to have fun along the way, and you are going to learn a thing or two. So make sure that you jump in there and check all of that stuff out, guys.
Thank you so much, and it's so lovely to spend this time with you.
Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks for listening to the Business Owners Podcast. We encourage you to connect with us on social media and join our community of business owners at businessbusinessbusiness.com.au.